So today we're going to be talking about not only the similarities between all four instruments, but the differences as well. So in our kit for our universal instrument, we have sorry, I held up the wrong one. We have the Barnhart 5.6, which is going to be used posteriorly and anteriorly. And then we have our area specific Gracey's. We have the N1, which is going to be used for all anterior surfaces. And we're going to be making sure that when we're using this, we have to use the lower blade. And this can be used from canine to canine for the working order. And then we have our Gracey 11-12 and our Gracey 13-14, which are used only posteriorly. And in order to get the correct working order, you're going to make sure that you're going from the most posterior tooth towards the anterior. And then these will be used a little bit differently to make sure that we have the correct working end. So for our 11-12, we want to make sure that V is to the D. And we would start at the distal line angle and make our way all the way into proximal of the mesial side of the tooth. So it'd start here, and then we would make our way forward, ending into the interproximal coal space. We also then have our Gracey 13-14, which is area specific for just the distal side of the tooth. So 11-12 is going to cover the buccal lingual surface and the mesial interproximal coal space, whereas 13-14 just covers the distal side of the tooth and ends in the distal coal space of the tooth. So in order to make sure that our right working end is on the tooth, we have to take a look and make sure V is to the D. So let's start off with, I'll get into the correct working end on the universal because it's going to be different depending on where you're using it. So for our anterior teeth, we want to make sure, like I said before, we're on our lowest blade on the tooth. When we're closing and inserting on the Gracey 1-2. Okay, sorry, give me 1 second. I lost my paper here. Anyways, I'll just go based off of my knowledge. We're going to close and insert. So you're going to be 0 to 40 degrees when you're closing the instrument. So we're going to close. Then we're going to open. Sorry, close, insert, and then open on the midline of the tooth. And end interproximally into that coal space. We would pull out our instrument and move to the next tooth. When we go to toward surfaces, all you have to do to get the lowest blade is just flip the instrument. So we're going to do canine to canine. We're going to close, insert, open, and then just same thing. And you would make your way all the way to the canine. Now we're done with our anterior teeth. We're going to move on to our Gracey 13-14. A good difference to note in these instruments, by the way, is that our Graceys have an uneven cutting edge. So the face of the blade is going to be the correct working blade. And then we have to angle it at a 70-degree angle, Whereas for universal, we have a leveled cutting edge and we have to hold it at a 90-degree angle. Good thing I remember that. Okay, let's get back to the demonstration. So V is to the D. We start on the most posterior tooth. We're going to close, insert, open a little bit differently with this one because the terminal shank needs to be tilted towards the tooth at a 70 to 80 degree angle for enamel and 60 to 70 for cementum. But we're still going to close it at a 0 to 40 degree angle. But when we open it, we want to make sure that we're using the right angle depending on if we're working on cleaning up enamel or cementum. So we would do this and make our way all the way to our first bye where posterior teeth start. I'm still struggling with the camera, by the way. So now that, let's say we did all of the posterior teeth, we're going to move to the 11, 12, which is going to cover the whole buccal and lingual surface of the tooth, starting from the distal line angle, but we're going to make our way forward interproximal of the mesial side of the tooth. So we want to make sure that one thing I missed, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back. One thing I missed, you also make sure that you get the right working end on the posterior, because the terminal shank is, if it's hugging the tooth, you're wrong. You have to make sure that the terminal shank is sitting upright in between that space. Okay, let's go back to 11, 12. V to the D. Close. Insert and open. And end interproximal. Make sure you're checking that interproximal coal space. And again, you always want to make sure that the terminal shank is parallel to the long axis of the tooth. For our universal instrument, the right working, it's going to be the same working order as all of the other Gracies, where it would be for anterior, it's canine to canine, posterior is most posterior tooth forward. And same thing, we can start at the midline here. We want to make sure we have our right working order by using bump to the tooth, or whichever way Pac-Man is eating. So here we're going to just close the instrument to make sure that we're not lacerating any tissue at 40 degrees. And then we insert it. When we open it, we're going to bring it to a 60 to 80 degree. And then we can start with our cleaning. That was horrible, I'm sorry. Close, insert, open. Close, insert, open. And then when we come back for toward surfaces, Pac-Man is no longer eating away, so we're going to flip to get our right working order. And then do the same thing as we did before with the close open, make our way into the interproximal coal space. Now when we move posteriorly, we would be doing the same exact thing where we're checking if the instrument is hugging the tooth. to get our correct working end on our blade. Close, insert, open. And we're going to do that all the way until we get into the first buy. Now, when we're using our universal as we would our 11-12, all we have to do is just roll over our instrument, which is nice. We would only be flipping it when we're doing the lingual side. Close, insert, open. And that's really it. One more thing that I can mention. No, that's it. That's what I can mention.